Hi, my name's Michael McAlpine, and I'm a GRCC student. I am in Simon's CO232 class. In front of us we have a Raspberry Pi. This is the Model B. I'll explain what this can do, how much it costs, and the differences between this and the Model A. So the Model B is the second revision of the Raspberry Pi. The Model A, the first revision, has 256 megabytes of RAM, a single USB port, no Ethernet, and requires a 2.5 watt USB mini power supply, like the one we have right here. These come standard with most Android phones. They're pretty ubiquitous, relatively cheap. The Model B, which we have in front of us, has also 256 megabytes of RAM, 2 USB ports, which you can see right here, an Ethernet port, which the Model A does not have, and it requires an almost identical 3.5 watt USB mini power supply. The Model A retails for $25, and the Model B retails for $35. So, the Model A and B both support an SD memory chip. This is pretty standard on most cameras. You can get converters from SD micro to normal SD if you have, a bunch of old SD micro cards or SD mini cards laying around. The port we have right here in front of us is a standard HDMI port. In the next video, I'm going to plug that port into my monitor and go through the setup of the Raspberry Pi. Like I said, we've got our Ethernet port right here, 2 USB ports, audio port, and an RCA video port. We also have this plug-in here, which is a GPIO, and you can use that to add expansions onto the Raspberry Pi. Other kind of neat things include you've got some power lights right here, an OK light, a power light, a link light, and a 10 megabit connection light. There's also an FDX light, which I don't know what that means. So, why would we buy one of these? What can you do with it? And what are some of the cool things it can do? First off, a Raspberry Pi runs a couple of different flavors of Linux, including Debian, which is what I'm going to install on it, Fedora 14, Arch Linux. It also runs Qton Pi, which is an SDK or a development kit, and it also runs RISC operating system. Like I said earlier, we will be installing Debian on this, and we will be using the Wheezy version. So what can I do with my Raspberry Pi? I can use it as a budget television, smart television, excuse me. I can also use it as a budget television if I want to stream content through it. It can be used as a homebrew voicemail system. There's a software called FreeSwitch that is being worked on for this guy. It can be used as a NAS device, which is network attached storage, and if you're really fancy, you can set it up as a private cloud. You can use it as an XBMC media center. You can use it as a webcam server and or baby monitor. If you really want to get technical, I've seen guys that add Super Nintendo controllers onto this. There's a separate expansion card, and you can plug 2 controllers into that and use it like a Super Nintendo. You can also set it up and use it in an arcade cabinet too, which is pretty cool. You can use it as a proxy server, firewall, game server, an Asterisk VoIP server, a music system, video conferencing system, Tor server, BitTorrent seedbox, and or client. Oh, and you can also use it as a PC. Now I'm going to set up for my second video, so please join me for that. Hi, this is Michael McAlpine again. I've got the Raspberry Pi almost set to go. Got my HDMI cable here, Ethernet, USB port, which is plugged into a KVM that's got a keyboard and mouse plugged into it, and I'm not going to use the sound or the RCA port. I'm going to demonstrate the installation of the Raspberry Pi image onto the micro SD card. Then I'm going to put that in my converter here, plug that into the bottom of the Raspberry Pi, which is kind of hard to get to, and then we'll boot it up and see if it works. Okay, that's pretty bright. May change the background here. Let's just do classic. That's pretty easy on the eyes. So I've got the Raspberry Pi image right here. I've got this software down here, which is the Win32 Disk Imager, which is on the Raspberry Pi site. The micro SD card is device F, and I've already got the image pointed at that right there. So I'm going to write. It's prompting and telling me that I could corrupt my physical drives or device if I continue. I'm not worried about that memory card, so I'm going to let it do its thing. It takes about, well, it's about 6% right now, so it's going to go on for a little bit of time. I'm going to pause the video and resume when it's done. Okay, so the memory card operating system install seems to have worked. I'm going to plug in the power cable. Maybe. There we go. As you can see, the lights light up on here. You've got some text flashing, Linux services starting up. Things like preliminary key map, swap, important things. Okay, so at this point, I can look up information, expand the root file system, overscan, configure the keyboard, change passwords for the Pi, set location, set time zone, split the memory, which I think is the swap in this case, enable or disable SSH, modify boot behavior, so we can start desktop on boot, and we can also update from here. So I'm going to set it to start the desktop on boot. I've selected that, and by hitting the right key on the keyboard, it goes down to select. I'll hit enter, and it's prompting us, asking if we want to boot straight to the desktop. We will say yes, and then we will finish, and we will reboot. So again, more text, stopping services. Starting up services. Sorry for not talking more. This isn't the most exciting thing. Just waiting for services to start up. We have our mouse, the Raspberry and the Raspberry Pi. We have icons here. They include IDLE, which I don't know what that is, a Debian reference file, Scratch, IDLE 3, Python games, Midori, and LX terminal. In the bottom left, we have the equivalent of the Windows Start menu here. I'm going to open a terminal, and in the bottom right we have CPU usage, shutdown, lock. The bottom left we have different desktop environments. My terminal is open here, so I'm going to type in some commands. Sudo apt get update double ampersand sudo apt get upgrade. We're gonna run that. Oh, and apparently it does not like sudo. Maybe I'm logged in as root already, which I think I am. Permission denied. Let's see, I'll try super user. And I don't know the password here, so I'm going to pause the video, look that up, and I'll be right back. Okay, after some thorough investigation, I figured out I had my commands typed in wrong. That happens when you type with one hand. So I'm going to back to sudo apt-get update space ampersand ampersand sudo apt-get upgrade. I'm going to hit enter here. It's working. It's checking for updates from the repositories, which probably won't be the quickest process. It's hitting http://mirrordirect.raspberry.org. Wheezy RPI, translation English Great Britain, because that's the language that's set by default since this device comes out of the UK. It's ignoring quite a few of the mirrors. When I tested this beforehand, I let it sit for about 5 minutes before I actually killed the update process. But it looks like it's finishing fine now. It's amazing though these repositories change over a couple days. So right now it's reading the new package list. It's at about 51%. $75. It's at 99%. Alright, it's done. It's building the dependency tree, reading state information, and it's prompting me that there are 11 upgrades. 0 newly installed, 0 to remove, and 0 not upgraded. 9.79 kilobits worth of information. So I'm going to say yes. And it's probably well, I don't know if it's kilobytes or kilobits. I think it's kilobits actually. So now it's hitting the repositories that have the proper updates. We're getting a bash update, some files, a couple of libraries, new Python update, idle 3 update, more Python, and we've got my cat down here who is meowing at me for some reason. Hi, Neo. Back to Raspberry Pi. Alright, it's asking me to make some bash changes. I'm going to leave the default. We actually notice as it's doing the upgrade, the CPU usage is definitely spiking on here. Like I said earlier, it's got a 700 megahertz processor and 256 megabytes of RAM. That rivals a lot of Windows XP machines circa 2002, 2003-ish. It may be older than that. I think my family had a Windows ME computer with 128 megabytes of RAM and an 800 megahertz processor, and that was in year 2000. That was purchased brand new. We're still waiting. Yep, I know this isn't the most exciting thing in the world, so sorry. Let's look at some of the applications on the Raspberry Pi. If we go to our accessories, we've got the Debian reference, a file manager, probably similar to Nautilus, an image manager, a LeafPad, which is a text editor, Xterminal, which is a terminal, a root terminal, and Xarchiver, which is a G2K plus 2 archive manager. Under education, we've got Scratch and Squeak. Internet, we have Dillo, Midori private browsing, NetSurf web browser. Under programming, we have IDLE, IDLE 3, Scratch, and Squeak. And we've got a task manager under system tools. Under preferences, we can customize the look and feel. We've got our desktop session settings, mouse and keyboard setup, in case you're not in the United States and you buy one of these. We have monitor settings, open box configuration manager, and preferred applications. So now that the Raspberry Pi is done updating, I have a terminal back. I'm going to close out of this, do a shutdown, and you guys should definitely think about purchasing one of these devices. It's pretty cool, or if you can wait a little while and save a little bit more money, there's another one called the Gooseberry coming out that should have a 1.5 gigahertz processor and quite a bit more system RAM. I think it has at least 512 megabytes. Well, anyways, have a nice day, guys. Bye.